The voice of sharing, Durian ASEAN.
Hi, morning. This is Arlene, and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. As usual, our morning programmed the ASEAN Breakfast Call. We have 10 Southeast Asian news to be shared with you. And today we will start off our news with the passing of Sultan Azlan Shah. He's the Sultan of Perak. He died yesterday, and we wish him and his family. We wish his family and the people of Malaysia our condolences, and we hope for the best for the next Sultan ahead. So our news today, the Sun, is about the story related to Teo Beng Hock. So no thorough probe on Beng Hock's letter. There was no thorough investigation to establish that the note found in DAP political aid Teo Beng Hock's bag was authored by him and was a suicide note. The Court of Appeal was told today there was 3 areas of content before the 3 members panel of judges. The evidence on the authorships of the note was doubtful. There was a break in the chain of evidence and no independent forensic evidence to support the suicide theory. The panel, chaired by Datuk Muhammad Arif Muhammad Yusof, questioned Deputy Public Prosecutor Muhammad Muhammad Abbas on the lack of investigation into the note. Muhammad Abbas-Zafri agreed with the judges that there was no thorough investigations to establish the note as prime evidence. Lawyer Gobind Singh Deo, who is representing Teo Meng Ki, the brother of Teo Beng Hock, said the appellant relied heavily on the pathologists Dr. Kunyin Pontip Roja Nusunand statements of pre-falling injury, which may have caused Beng Hock to be unconscious or semi-conscious at the time he felt. So that means we still have a long way to go in terms of trying to assert the evidence and investigation, especially regarding on the note found in the DAP, the alleged note found in the DAP political aid Teo Beng Hock's bag. And the next one is about the case of gang rape. 38 people gang rape a young girl. Was reported yesterday, and police is investigating the discovery that a 50-year-old girl who was gang raped by almost 40 men last week was not only one sexually assaulted in a hut at a village in Ketereh, Kelantan. Her friend, a school dropout, also aged 15, who had allegedly lured the girl to the hut known to be a drug addict's hut, and was also raped by the man. So 12 suspects currently held in the gang rape case, and the police is currently interrogating the 12 suspects as well. He said that the 11 male suspects who were picked up at their homes following a report launched by a girl on Monday are in their 20s and 30s. He said the teenage girl was arrested as she is believed to have hatched the plan to lure her friend to the hut, although the suspect also unwittingly ended up as a victim. The case of gang rape, this case is particularly, in my personal opinion, is a very tragic one. 38 people gang raping a young girl, a 15-year-old girl. This is unheard of anywhere around the world that I know. And the fact that it happened in Kelantan shows that the situation on the ground among our society is still very much a patriarchal society. Moving along to the third news of today, which is related to the Allah issue, the court to deliver verdict on June 23rd. The federal court will deliver on June 23rd its verdict on whether to grant or not the Catholic Church application to leave to appeal against the Court of Appeal's decision prohibiting the weekly Halal Bahasa Malaysia section from using the word Allah. The church solicitor S. Selvaraja, when contacted, said he received a letter from the Deputy Registrar of the Federal Court, Nur Aziati Jafar, on Tuesday to inform the decision was fixed on June 23rd. The church is seeking to obtain leave from the federal court to proceed with its appeal against the Court of Appeal's decision made on October 15, 2013 to ban the use of Allah in the Bahasa Malaysia section of its publication. The appeal court has set aside the December 31st, 2009 decision of a high court which had allowed the Herald to use the word Allah after it, or the High Court, declared that the Home Ministry's decision in prohibiting the publication from using the word Allah was illegal, null and void. So it seems like the issue of Allah is still stuck at the judiciary level, and it's quite saddening in my mind that such issue which is related to the faith of the majority population in Borneo is being questioned and is being restricted, and I feel this is something that is not supposed to be. After all, Allah, according to a general understanding of Allah, it is an Arabic word, although there are some quarters that say that but Allah has never been used in the Peninsula Malaysia, so why do we need to use it now if it has never been used before? But that's not true either, because the word Allah has appeared in the Malay Bible, or the Malay religious text of the Christians, even since the 16th century. So it is not true that the word Allah has never been used before. Perhaps it has never been commonly used among society in the Peninsula Malaysia. But in Sabah and Sarawak, the word Allah is a common word that is being shared by Muslim and Christians, which is kind of interesting. That's why people in Sabah and Sarawak, when I spoke to them, they don't really understand why this is an issue. It is just an Arabic word for God. It is not a special word for a certain religious God. So in that case, the word Allah, the issue is still being contested in the judiciary. But to be very frank, I don't think the judiciary can do much in terms of trying to understand the context why it can or cannot be used, especially in the Bahasa Malaysia section, which is kind of ironic. It can be used in other sections except for Bahasa Malaysia. So if you look at the bigger picture, there's this fear that the word Allah would confuse the Malay population, who they assume would only understand the national language, which is Bahasa Malaysia. But then it also shows that they are trying to make Bahasa Malaysia an exclusive language for the Malays, when it's supposed to be a national language that any race and people from different race and religion can use it as their daily lives lingua franca. So and talking about the confusion towards the word Allah against the Malay, I don't think that argument really holds water, because as far as I know, a person's faith is not determined by just one word. A person's faith is determined by his or her daily routine life, how much he really submit himself towards the belief of God. So whether the name of God is Allah, or is Jesus Christ, or is is Jesus Christ, or is the Zoroaster's God, or is Buddha, it doesn't make any difference in that sense. The word Allah itself is just a word. It should be seen as just a word that means God for all human beings. Even in the Quran, it's stated when God summoned to his subject, he always summoned to all his creations, all his being, rather than just one segment population of believers of Allah. So in this case, I hope that once and for all, the court can make a decision that would somehow inject justice into the Malaysian population. Next off is of Thailand. So Thailand's army asked media to get easy on the junta chief or the junta's chief. The Thailand's army chief has a reputation as a tough guy, no-nonsense leader, but his lieutenants are asking reporters to go easy on General Prayut Chan-o-cha at press conferences. The press should cheer him on. Major General Prolapat, the press, he actually said that the press should cheer him under the watchful eyes of the new junta. The Thai television news broadcasts are full of stories of soldiers doing good deeds. In particular, the army is trying to capitalize on the move of its free up money to pay farmers under a rice subsidy program initiated by the previous government. On Tuesday, dressed in his ceremonial best for his first formal press conference since seizing power on May 22nd, he abruptly walked off the stage midway through a question about when election might be held. This is not going well. It seems like the junta might be staying or be in power for quite a bit longer time than is expected. From the propaganda of televising the good deeds of Thai people and the banning of certain websites, and the most importantly, they even banned social media for a couple of hours before it was returned back to normal. So the junta is really trying to exert its power, assuming that the Thai people would accept military rule over democracy. But I think people are fed up with the political crisis, but they still value democracy in that sense. I don't see the Thai society will anytime soon be in a way trying to accept the junta as part of their government. I think they really, really want a more democratic Thailand. So if Thailand is again being ruled by the military junta, I don't know what to say, but I think it will somehow make the Thai society having negative view about the military itself. So let's just see what would happen is as things are still developing. The next off, we move to Indonesia. So Jokowi brings the checkered shirts back for presidential bid. It was a checkered shirt that a mayor from Central Java walked the streets in his bid to become Jakarta's government. Now, after a year and a half as the capital leader, Joko Widodo has brought back the red and blue checks to run for the presidency. In a Muslim-majority country where voters are accustomed to seeing politicians wear conservative religious attire or formal patterned textile, the relaxed checkered shirt immediately caught the attention of young fashion-forward Jakarta voters. After Mr. Widodo won the Jakarta governmentship in late 2012, he swapped his signature shirt with a simple white button-up. Often he rolled up the sleeve and paired it with sneakers when making the impromptu visits or blusukan that had become his trademark. So in this sense, I think looks counts in Jakarta's or in Indonesian's politics. It seems like the Indonesian people really care whether how Mr. Jokowi would present himself to the public. So I guess that's the reason why he's bringing the checkered shirt back for presidential bid. In fact, I never seen before people, or political candidates actually wear checkered shirt. Usually they would wear very conservative looking outfits. So I guess it's a way for him to attract the younger voters in Indonesia. And at a sense also, in that sense also, I think the younger voters in Indonesia are probably one of the largest pool of emerging voters that he needs to win their hearts and their votes. Next, let's talk about Myanmar. So more foreign companies are investing in Myanmar. According to the Directorate of Investment and Company Administrations, the ICA, more foreign companies have been allowed to invest in Myanmar. A meeting of the Myanmar Investment Commission has revealed that companies from China, Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, and Malaysia has been permitted to operate business in Myanmar. The Hong Kong-based Golden Precise Embroidery and Garment Co. Limited specializes in lace knitting and clothing and will open a factory in Shui Lipan Industry Zone in Hiatalaya, Yangon region. The Malaysia and Myanmar companies plan a joint venture in processing marine products on a piecework basis and will be set up in Inle Minier Industry Zone, Miak Township, Tanin Tai region. Another joint venture business between Japanese and Myanmar companies have been given the green light to build a rice refinery as well as grow rice and process seeds and other agricultural products. In fact, I would have to attest that the businesses, foreign businesses investment in Myanmar has been going on even during the military junta itself. When I was there back in 2009, I witnessed quite a number of foreign companies from Asian countries like China, Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and even Singapore investing in Myanmar. But I guess at this period of or at this juncture where Myanmar is pushing forward towards transiting to democracy, more and more companies are interested to invest in Myanmar. And Myanmar is a very huge country. Besides Yangon as its capital city, it has quite a number of other established township in around Myanmar. And this would definitely be a good foreign direct investment lure by the Myanmar government. And recently I've been to Myanmar. I witnessed a lot of development is going on. I remember it was just one supermarket that is available in the whole of Yangon, I would say. But for now, I think every street, or I would say every area, pockets of area in Yangon have a shopping mall, and this is quite amazing to see it. But also at the same time, I don't know whether how fast the economic growth, the Myanmar government would want Myanmar to hit, because I think it's kind of too fast, which resulted one of the clear negative impact of development is the congestion, the huge congestion in everyday lives. Like in the past, you can just walk from one street to another without feeling like, you need to look left and right. But now the car are just piling up on the street, and it's one of the impact of growth that maybe Myanmar need to slow down a bit. The next one is about Philippines. So why Philippines is one of the world's worst place for workers? It is reported that Philippines is considered one of the worst countries to work in, according to a report by International Trade Union Confederation. The ITUC's Global Rights Index rates country on a scale of 1 as best and to 5 as worst, depending on their compliance with collective labor rights. And this is done by evaluating 97 indicators such as workers' rights to establish or join unions, to collect bargaining, and to strive. The Philippines scored 5, which means there is no guarantee of rights, along with 23 other countries. Countries with ratings of 5 are the worst countries in the world to work in, while the legislations may spell out certain rights. Workers' rights have effectively no access to their rights and are therefore exposed to autocratic regimes and unfair labor practices. Besides that, several other Southeast Asian countries are also scored 5s, such as Bangladesh, China, Cambodia, India, Laos, and even our own Malaysia and South Korea. While other Middle Eastern countries such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates, where many Filipinos are working, are also receiving a score of 5. The surprising truth is Malaysia, considered a much more developed countries, are on par with other underdeveloped countries when it comes to workers' rights and also the worst place for workers. So unfortunately, I don't think anytime soon the scale will go up for Malaysia. It's quite sad for Malaysia to be on par with countries like the Philippines, Laos, Bangladesh, China, and all that, when we could have a better, be in a better position, especially for Malaysians employees. Next off is also about the Philippines. So Philippines president warns of Chinese expansion. Benito Aquino, president of the Philippines, had warned that Beijing may seek to repeat its tactic of exploring for oil in disputed areas of the South China Sea, this time in waters close to its coastline. Normally, what happens to Vietnam eventually happens to the Philippines, he said, referring to what he depicted as the pattern of escalation by Beijing against several countries with which it has territorial dispute. In May, China started drilling its hydrocarbon in water dispute with Vietnam. Its deployment of a drilling rig backed by a flotilla of more than 100 ships triggered a wave of violent anti-Chinese riots across southern Vietnam. Mr. Aquino said he was alarmed that a hotline that was supposed to have been established between Hanoi and Beijing failed. When Vietnam had tried to communicate with China about the drilling, there was no response at any level. It is quite sad that Philippines and Vietnam has to be in a situation where they have to confront China about its offensive attack towards the South China Sea, especially its tactic of exploring for oil in the disputed area of the South China Sea. In this sense, it is also quite, to me, unfortunate that Philippines and also Vietnam have to seek for external political power, and in this sense is the US to seek for help, or at least for a balance of power in the South China Sea. And what about ASEAN? Is ASEAN really working towards a goal of ensuring that there would be peaceful negotiations on the South China Sea? And also one reminder that there's also another controversy revolving around Spratly Island, that even Malaysia is claiming a stake on it. So it seems like a lot of our maritime areas are really disputed, and a lot of countries are claiming stakes on that. It is something that is natural because the South China Sea is a sea that is rich in natural resources, and I think a lot of countries want to exploit that part of the sea. So, and at this time, besides just Southeast Asian countries, seems like China is the one that is really interested and really passionate about getting the minerals out, especially in this case, the oil rigs out for their own personal capital investment and all that. So that's all for our news today. We will return back with Blast from the Grassroots. So here we will speak to you again.